12 Strong, though, also known as 12 Strong, because you got to go to the long-winded title. 12
God.
Strong, the declassified true story of the horse soldiers. Directed by, is a directorial debut of Nikolai Fuchs. I couldn't even get that name. I could not even get that name.
Tiffany Haddish, where are you?
Yeah, I was going to say, we need Tiffany Haddish on this. Nikolai Fuchs, I think is how you say it. That's going to be the last time I say that name.
Yeah.
Produced by the great Jerry Bruckheimer, whose a name I've not seen grace the credits of a screen in quite some time. The film follows a...
I was about to say, that's a real name.
Yeah, really.
Jerry Bruckheimer.
You never heard of Jerry Bruckheimer before? He's a huge producer. He's the one who produced a lot of like the CSI shows.
That's why he sounds so familiar.
Con Air, The Rock, Top Gun, Kangaroo Jack, like all like the...
That's the movie, Kangaroo Jack.
That's what everybody remembers him for, you know what I mean? You want to give the plot rundown to 12 Strong?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically a story about a special forces unit that's deployed in Afghanistan literally right after 9/11 happens, like days after 9/11. They are the first ones to touch the ground. The team basically has to go in and find a warlord and basically take him out for a resistance group in Afghanistan.
Pretty much. Led by Captain Mitch Nelson, played by Chris Hemsworth. Also alongside Chief Warrant Officer Cal Spencer, played by the great Michael Shannon. A couple of the other side actors, you got Trevante Rhodes, you got Michael Pena, you got Jeff Stoltz from Unforgettable, I should say. Unforgettable. And one of my favorite comedies in the last few years, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. He was also in that. Rob Riggle's in this film as well, and for a very short time. Rob Riggle was actually in the military. He was actually in the military. Which
Apparently,
I did not know.
and I learned this, the guy he's playing in this movie was actually his lieutenant in the actual military.
That's it. Yeah, Colonel John Mahalan is his character.
Yeah.
He's a special groups commander. Let's talk about 12 Strong. You know what? I am so glad. I'm just going to say this right now. I'm so glad the Oscar nominations came out yesterday, and they coincided with the release of 12 Strong, because I'll tell you right now, there's not a lot to talk about this movie.
Really not.
I think we would have struggle bust our way for a full hour
If this was going to be
conversation.
the first hour, I would have had to go see this movie again and just take notes.
Seriously.
I got to find something
We
to talk
could have made
about.
it work, but there's not a lot to say about this thing. There's not a lot. There's not a lot. And I would rather have a intensely negative reaction to a movie just so I'm reacting than kind of a meh, it's okay
Just
reaction.
bland.
Joining us now, very impromptu, I'm kind of worried now. Dominic Guan's on the show, is a wonderful producer. What's going on, D?
Hey, so this sounds like a video game, honestly.
12 Strong?
Well, let me tell
It's
you
like a
something.
12-player co-op. You take down a warlord in Afghanistan.
I hope it's not split screen. I hope it's not split screen for that matter.
Like, what? Go ahead.
No, the funny part is Rob Riggle's character in this movie literally is the briefing before each Call of Duty mission. Because whenever they cut back to his character, it's literally just him talking to, what's his name? William Fincher.
Yeah.
And they're both just talking about what these 12 soldiers are going to be doing next in 12 Strong. So, it'll come back to them, and then they do it. It's like,
Then they do it.
They'll be like, okay, so this guy's be taking up sniper position up here. These three will be flanking from behind. It's stuff like that.
Legit. Okay, so I don't think we care that much about spoilers, and I'm not going to go too hard in spoilers, but, whenever they do that briefing at the start, do they do it?
Yeah.
Is there any deviation from the briefing?
It's exactly what they have to do. What they are saying right there is what these soldiers end up doing.
Pretty much.
So where is the tension? Let me obviously I have not seen this movie. I'm just
I really don't know where the tension's at. I didn't feel any tension at all.
Well, you know what I
scene.
think happened? You know what I think happened is you can kind of tell when a movie doesn't have extreme confidence in itself.
No.
You know what I mean? And when you have a movie that has to kind of outline the events as they happen or before they happen, you have an approach, and this is, again, a first-time director. This is a first-time director. It is a co-written screenplay by Ted Talley and Peter Craig. It's based off the Doug Stanton book, Horse Soldiers 2. This movie, 12 Strong, I say suffers from the lone survivor paradox. The lone survivor paradox is, if you remember, that was the movie about Marcus Luttrell.
With Mark Wahlberg.
With Mark Wahlberg, the Peter Berg film about a guy who, in order to preserve, because Marcus Luttrell did produce it, in order to keep the memory alive of his fallen comrades during this very intense mission, he made this movie, helped make this movie Lone Survivor, to keep the memory of his brothers alive.
Yeah.
The paradoxical element of that movie is that the movie doesn't give you much to remember about the guys because it doesn't treat them as personalities or as characters.
The only thing that movie makes you remember them is the real life footage they show at the end of the movie.
Precisely, and the scene when they're falling down the hill because it's very well shot. But there's not a lot of character development. Now, 12 Strong kind of makes that clear from the beginning that there's not going to be a lot.
If that movie,
we go into post 9/11.
If Lone Survivor couldn't do it with 3 of them, 12 Strong can't do it with all 12
of them, not at all. And this movie is a lot closer to, and I'm going to defend this movie. I have no idea, Joe, how you responded to it. This movie is more, it's a movie with Saving Private Ryan ambitions, but it's a lot closer. And this isn't a negative, okay? I think that it's not as good as this. It's a lot closer to 13 Hours, the Michael Bay film. It's a lot closer to the Secret Soldiers of Benghazi.
I never saw 13 Hours.
You never did watch it.
No.
Now, here's the thing with 13 Hours, okay? That might not have been an amazing movie. You know, I'm not, you probably know I'm not a fan of Michael Bay, but at the same time, the movie was upfront about negating the narratives, the humanity of the characters in the narrative, as well as any political leanings. You know what I mean, of like the Benghazi, conversation and whatnot. But it really focused on like the impossible odds the soldiers had in the face of an ambush. Yeah. Now, 12 Strong. 13 Hours wasn't a great movie, but 12 is no 13. Let me put it that way.
Maybe if this movie was 13 Strong.
Yeah, really. You know what I mean? Or at least like, 15 minutes shorter. I mean,
maybe like an hour shorter, honestly.
That's the thing. I mean, this thing is 2 hours and 10 minutes. And when you have a war movie, okay, I'm not saying, war movies, I think generally war movies are about 2 hours. But the thing with this is like when you have a war movie that doesn't give you any characters to really, connect with, you're asking a lot out of your audience to stay with you for 2 hours or more. That's the tough part. And coupled with the fact that we don't have characters in this film, Chris Hemsworth, Michael Shannon, Michael Pena are all great actors. They're not challenged here.
No,
they're not. And I mean, Shannon. I talk about how great he is. He does well with what he has, but what he has isn't much.
And he's very underused in this movie. Like I don't mean to give it away, but. So this movie's about them riding horses. Michael Shannon hurts himself while riding a horse, and so he has to lay down for like majority of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, so is Michael Shannon just reserved to a speaking role?
Yeah,
pretty much.
The first half of the movie, he's not even where Chris Hemsworth is at because they have to split up the team because there's not enough horses. So whenever they cut back to him, it's for comedic effect. Then when he finally rejoins Chris Hemsworth, he gets injured by riding a horse because his back hurts because he's very old. Like they acknowledge like how old he is because it's Michael Shannon.
He's an older guy.
Yeah, and he basically like lies down. I mean, he has a great line. He's like, this is the only line I actually really like. He's like, the great thing about missile strikes is I can do it while sitting down.
Yeah, it's very strange. And what's funny about Michael Shannon? This has nothing to do with 12 Strong, but we got to talk about something. Is there's a movie coming out with Michael Shannon and Benedict Cumberbatch. Well, it's supposed to come out. I don't even know if it will anymore. It's called The Current War, and it's about the war between George Westinghouse, who Michael Shannon plays, and Thomas Edison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, like who try to determine like whose like electrical grid or electrical system would wind up taking over and becoming the monopoly force. It was supposed to come out around Christmas, and it's not come out yet. It's like an indefinitely delayed because of two things. One, it's got very poor reviews for something as good as it sounds.
Oh, really?
It's got poor reviews, number one, so they pulled it for that, and number two, good old Weinstein's name's on it. So like I don't even know if it's ever going to come out. But my point being, the reason I bring it up though is like Michael Shannon's been taking some odd roles recently. Like he took Pottersville, which I haven't seen, but Pottersville is a Christmas movie about Michael Shannon, who he's a owner of a store, and I from what I gather, he has to like dress. The town thinks they saw Bigfoot, so he has to dress up like Bigfoot in order to save Christmas.
What? That's not, wait. So Pottersville and Christmas, that makes me think of what's the movie where every time you hear a bell ring, an angel gets its wings?
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, and in It's a Wonderful Life, the town goes from whatever the town was to Pottersville because Mr. Potter is like the bad guy in that movie.
That could be what this is referencing. I have no idea. I haven't seen it, and but it's Michael Shannon, so I will eventually see it. But yeah, nobody's given anything really in 12 Strong really to do. The best performance in the film is Navid Negahban.
I agree.
Who's playing General Dostum, who's funny. He plays the leader of the Northern Alliance, Michael Pena's character, fighting Chris Hemsworth character or Michael Pena's character, providing them with intel. He's providing them with intel in terms of like where these fringe Taliban forces are as the leader of the Northern Alliance. The character General Dostum is currently the vice president of Afghanistan now. So not only is that character one of the most interesting people in the movie, that actor's really good. Now,
Well, the one thing I liked about his character too is him and Chris Hemsworth have like a few scenes where like their ideologies kind of like clash with one another, and I thought those scenes were great. I'm like, can we get more scenes like this rather than cutting back to Michael Pena doing a one-liner that's not funny whatsoever?
Trevante Rhodes
or
doing
like
the same
these other
thing.
9 characters that like don't have anything to do.
That's probably the best moment in the movie is when you get like you get the debate between General Dostum and Nelson, whether like led by men versus led by God. That's a very good, good subtext to this movie, or at least as much subtext as you're gonna find in this thing. I think my biggest problem with this, besides the fact that there's no characters, because first off, you don't need to have characters, even in a war film. You don't need to have characters in order to succeed. I think Dunkirk proved that.
Yeah,
you don't need.
I honestly have to see choice of just this made me like Dunkirk even more.
Yeah,
because
really.
the choice of just not being like, well, I gotta get home and see my wife and kids because I miss them so much. It's like, well, I'm glad Dunkirk didn't do that now.
You could even, I mean, Dunkirk is the perfect example because it's the most extreme in terms of non-character characters. You could even go all the way back to Saving Private Ryan, which is the ultimate modern war film.
Yeah.
And how, aside from Tom Hanks, Matt Damon doesn't show up until the last third of the film. And then Tom Sizemore, sure. But then everyone else, like Vin Diesel is in that movie. Everyone forgets.
Yeah, really.
That Vin Diesel is, and he dies. Spoiler alert for like a 20-year-old movie or whatever. But Vin Diesel dies like a third into the movie, and but he serves his purpose. Like he is a non-character character.
Yeah, it's a good point. And something like this, you really say, because I was one of the people when it first came out, I was a little bit lower on Dunkirk just because of the non-character aspect. I still really like it. I still think it's an important film. But you wait to see something like this, like you said, to make you appreciate Dunkirk even more. You know what I mean?
immediately want to just like be like, okay, you know what, Nolan, I'm sorry, because even I had the same problem with it too. I was like, I would have liked some character. It's like now it's like, you know what, I take it back.
But but it's like, you know what? Nolan focused all his energy where it really mattered. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways for that particular experience. And he made a movie that is, again, I heavily question how it's going to hold up on DVD and on TV. I really do. I have my, Dom well knows, we talked about it for a full hour. I have my doubts about the way people are going to respond to it in coming years when they're watching it on a 50-inch widescreen instead of a gigantic IMAX 4K, D-box screen theater. But I'll say, if you want, there's almost no better aesthetic experiment or in film today than Dunkirk.
And honestly, just the fact that Dunkirk is so different from everything else around it.
True.
That inherently just makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and then you get, like I said, you get something like 12 Strong too, where it's like you could say that Chris Hemsworth, Michael Shannon, Michael Pena are good in the film. You could say that, but by saying that too, you're also shortchanging their talents just as much as the film does. They're men who are proven worthy of a challenge. They're men who, I'll be honest, I'll go as far as to say this, on their best days, they're some of the best male talent Hollywood's got to offer on their best days. Shannon, like I said, is again, hashtag the new MS, the new Meryl Streep in a way. But they play their go-to archetypes here. Hemsworth's likable. Pena's kind of an everyman character, and Shannon's an authority figure. That's kind of who they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, people said the criticism, if there's any for Michael Shannon, they say he kind of plays the same character. Yeah, but he brings a gravity to the character.
He does.
He's kind of a
something I will
distillation.
bring up probably with Shape of Water, honestly.
He does play the same kind of character, but at the same time, he brings an intensity and a gravity to that character too. Also, and we'll go into the Shape of Water because he's in that as well. He brings an absurdity quality to that, and we'll talk about that in Shape of Water. I want to table that. But aside from Navid Nagoban, who plays the leader of the Alliance, General Dostum, he's really good. Some of the good shots of the barren landscapes. It's a movie actually shot in New Mexico. This thing is shot in New Mexico. And 12 Strong does prove, I think, that New Mexico still provides Hollywood productions with great real estate at half the cost and better tax breaks. Like that's
New Mexico.
But that's why you wonder why a lot of productions are going to like Albuquerque and stuff. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheap, and you get tax breaks going there.
You know what character I want to bring up though? It's a character that's completely unnecessary, and it was something I hated that they did in American Sniper. They gave this movie a villain for you to root against, and it is like the most it's the dumbest thing in this movie, honestly, and probably the worst thing is the villain, because all he does is just the villain school 101 stuff.
I almost forgot there was a villain. Yeah,
Yeah,
I almost
he's
forgot there was.
completely
Is he
forgettable
Taliban?
too.
Is he-
Yeah,
yeah.
his name
Yeah,
is
he is.
Razan, and like you're supposed to like root against him and everything. He just does the basic villainy things. And he's like, when the shots, so when like an American gets shot, or not an American gets shot, or like when the resistance group gets shot, because I forgot, if you're wearing an American uniform in this movie, the bullets just go past you.
Yeah,
and hit
really.
anybody else.
They gotta go. The military, the U.S. Army's got a fund for those uniforms where it's like, the bullets just completely just redirect anytime they're headed in that direction.
And like it wouldn't be such an issue if it's like they weren't running out in the middle of the open on horses and like tanks are shooting at them. Like there's a scene where a tank shoots at like a group of them and they all duck out of the way as the tank shell goes over them.